What's up? Hey, it's me and Hez here, and I'm gonna do a video. And this one is gonna be about, I think it'll be about anarchy. So, lots of philosophers start with human beings as the fundamental, human consciousness as like the fundamental structure of their philosophies, right? So, like, they start with nature. Well, basically, you have three basic things. Basically, everybody either starts in three different places. You have nature, like matter, the stuff that we're made up of. You have mind, or like consciousness, or like spirit, like those two other things, like, and then you have God, right? And like Plato and Aristotle basically started with when they started with nature, they got to the idea of God, right? They started with causality in nature, and they realized that energy was basically the fundamental thing that formed all matter, and that either it couldn't be eternal, so you had to have an outside force, right, to start with all energy. So they came to God, and then they came to themselves and like that consciousness, their individual identity and consciousness, and then they like, how do those two things go together? How does like the spirit and the matter, nature go together? And they use God to kind of bring those two things together. That there is something about our nature that comes from God, and there's something about the material. There's something about our spirit that comes from God. Something about nature comes from God. But that God that they get to is unknowable. So ultimately, you know yourself and you know nature through your own self-being, and then you become the center of the universe, and then you become a pantheist, and then you become your own God, right? But there are other people like Descartes. Descartes started with nature, and he basically became a deist, and he felt like the whole universe was basically like a giant machine, and God just made the machine, right? And he has a whole expression, I think, therefore I am. Like, I see, I know, I see, so I exist, and I exist, how is that? And then he turned everything into like a machine, a deistical machine. Right? God, there is a God, but he's just the force that started the matter, right? But he didn't deal much with consciousness, spirit, the mind, right? He thought that was basically just there's some way to explain that physically. It's a physical consequence, right? But other people started deciding that no, all of nature really is going through my mind, right? Like all of the experiments, everything I touch, I see, I feel, is actually being filtered through my mind and my spirit. So, what is the real thing is my mind, my consciousness. All the other matter really is just inside my brain, it's inside my mind, right? It's inside my consciousness. And this is dangerous because once you start going down this line, that your brain, your consciousness, your spirit and your mind is the center of the universe, and the matter is just um, like a limitation upon your mind, then you can deny all causality, you can deny all morality, you can deny everything. And then everything you see and touch and feel doesn't have to be a real thing, it's just a limiting factor to your mind. And a lot of, down this line started people like the Marquis de Sade, who was like a crazy French Marquis guy that was like super evil, and he was like totally into like rape and pedophilia and all this crazy stuff, because he felt that all system, all order was oppression. It was a limitation on the individual, right? So he wanted to break down every single idea of order, every idea of morality, every system. He wanted to be free of every system. He thought like controls and limitations and everything were basically just limitations on the individual, and that was bad, right? So he wanted to break down basically law, order, society, and he became an anarchist, right? And he did absolutely everything he could think of to break down whatever system they could, right? He hated God, he hated the idea of religion, he hated the idea of the government, He hated the idea of family, everything. And he just turned into this crazy individual that like wanted to rape, murder, pillage. He thought that evil was the best thing a person could do because the ideas of good and evil, morality, he thought were a system that needs to be broken down. So that we should do the most evil things that we can think of to break free of the chains of the oppressive ideas of morality, right? And these ideas are really starting to come through in modern American society. Like the vast majority of people, you would think like um, people that reject God, you would think that they would be content to have a totalitarian state and complete control over the church, the family, individual, but they're not. They're even going farther than that, and they want to break down all order. Order for them is the oppression of God, right? This is the Luciferian lie that we need to become our own gods, and that all that is good with God is evil, and all that is evil is something that is good, right? So there's a fringe side of the left wing people who are trying to break down all of our systems, and you're thinking, but why? It doesn't make any sense. Why would they want chaos, and why would they want all this stuff? Okay, the majority of liberals before were trying to get control of the system, but there's a fringe side one that just wants to break down everything, right? For them, that is the most powerful idea, is just to break, just to break. They want to break everything down, break down the individual, the family, the school, the church, the state, everything. Anarchy, and that is the fringe woke left's goal. It's not really anything but Lucifer, satanic chaos. And they can't fix chaos with chaos, but they really don't care because that's the goal. It's not order, it's not socialism, it's not fascism, it's anarchy. So when you start with your own mind as the end all be all, you get to this place, you get to anarchy. And anarchy doesn't help anybody with anything. So yeah, start with nature. You can generally get to Kant and Plato, and you get to statism, totalitarianism. Start with the mind, and you end up getting the mind is totally polluted, broken in sin, and you get that crazy satanic anarchy. So watch out. Do some reading. Laters. Bye bye.